You still pray. You want to be clear about that. You didn't walk away. You didn't stop showing up. You still open your Bible. You still talk to God. But somewhere along the way, the prayers changed. They got safer. You used to pray with specifics. The exact thing you needed. The exact outcome you were asking for. The exact person or situation or door you were trusting God to move. You prayed those prayers with everything. And some of them didn't get answered. Not most of them. Just enough of them. Just enough that the next time you went to pray for something specific, something in you hesitated. And instead of saying what you actually wanted, you reached for the safer version. You will be done. Whatever is best. I trust you with this. And those phrases aren't wrong. They're true. They're scriptural. They're things you actually believe. But if you're honest, really honest, that's not why you started using them. You started using them because they protect you. Because if you say you will be done, you can't be disappointed by the answer. Because if you don't name the specific thing can't be specifically withheld. Because a prayer that doesn't ask for anything can't go unanswered. And somewhere between the prayers that cost you everything and the prayers that cost you nothing, you chose the ones that cost you nothing. And the relationship with God got quieter, more manageable, safer, and emptier. And the distance between those last two words is where this whole conversation lives. And you're not sure if what you did was wisdom or surrender. And you've been carrying that question for a long time, without knowing who to ask, without knowing if asking out loud would make it more real than you're ready for. Here's how it happened. Not all at once. It started with one prayer that didn't go the way you needed. And you processed it. You found a theology to hold it. God's ways are higher. His timing is perfect. And you meant it. And then another prayer didn't go the way you needed. And the theology felt a little thinner the second time. Not because it was less true, because it was being asked to hold more weight. And then another. And at some point, quietly, without a decision, the specific request started getting shorter. You still brought things to God, but you wrapped them earlier. I know you have a plan. I trust you. You will be done. And the wrapping started coming before the actual ask. Before you let yourself say what you actually wanted. Before you let yourself be vulnerable enough to name it out loud to God. Because naming it made it real. And real things can be really withheld. And you had learned what that felt like. So you stopped making things real in prayer. You kept the prayers spiritual, elevated, surrendered. The kind of prayers that feel like faith from the outside and feel like self-protection from the inside. You know the difference because you remember what the other kind felt like. Here's what nobody says about the spiritual discipline of surrender. It can become a defense mechanism without you realizing it. Because "Thy will be done" is a true statement, is the right posture. Jesus said it in Gethsemane. But Jesus said it after he said what he wanted. "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." The specific ask came first. The raw, vulnerable, costly thing he actually wanted, and then the surrender. Not instead of the ask. After it. And that sequence matters. Because surrender that replaces the ask isn't really surrender. It's avoidance wearing surrender's clothing. Real surrender says, "This is what I want, and I trust you with the outcome." Spiritual self-protection says, "I'm not going to tell you what I want, so I can't be hurt by the answer." Those are not the same posture. And the difference between them is not visible from the outside. Both produce prayers that sound like faith. But only one of them keeps the relationship fully open. And you've been gradually moving from one to the other. Not because your faith decreased, because your pain increased. And the self-protection makes sense. But it has a cost, and you've been feeling the cost. What if the specific ask is not a risk to protect yourself from? What if it's the very thing the relationship requires? Because here's what asking specifically does. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to say, "I want this. I need this. I am bringing this specific, nameable, real thing to you and asking you to move." And vulnerability is exactly what intimacy is made of. The relationship with God deepens not in the safe prayers, but in the exposed ones. In the ones that cost you something to say. The ones where you named the exact thing and waited for the exact answer. Those are the ones that require the most trust. And trust practiced through risk is what the relationship is built on. The safe prayer produces nothing the relationship can grow from. Just a spiritual posture that looks like faith and functions like distance. And the thing you were protecting yourself from, the pain of a specific prayer not being answered. That pain is real. But the alternative is a relationship that stays shallow because you stopped letting it cost you anything. And shallow is a different kind of pain, the kind that lasts longer, because the relationship never becomes what it was supposed to be. Think about a friendship where one person stopped being honest, not dishonest, just stopped bringing the real things, started showing up and talking about safe topics, work, weather, general life, not because they stopped caring about the friend, because they've been vulnerable once and it didn't land the way they needed. And they calculated, without fully realizing it, that the safer version of the friendship was preferable to another disappointment. And the friendship continued, but at a different level. The other person could feel it. Not the absence of affection. The affection was still there. The absence of access. The sense that something real was being withheld. That the conversations were happening at the surface because one person had decided the surface was safer than the depth. And the friendship became functional. Warm even, but no longer the thing it was built to be. That's what's happened between you and God. The access, the specific, vulnerable, costly kind, has been quietly withdrawn. And God has been waiting at the depth, present, waiting for you to bring the real thing again. Blind Bartimaeus was sitting on the side of the road when Jesus passed, and he cried out, not with a surrendered, elevated, already trusting request. He cried out with a specific, undignified, will not be silenced need he actually had. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. People told him to be quiet. He cried louder, and Jesus stopped and asked him something he already knew the answer to. What do you want me to do for you? Not, surrender the outcome to me. Not, trust my sovereign will. What do you want? He asked for the specific thing. He required Bartimaeus to say out loud what he actually wanted. Because something happens when you name the specific thing to God. Something shifts in you. The naming is an act of trust. It says, I believe you can. I believe you care. I believe the specific thing matters to you. And Bartimaeus said it. Lord, let me receive my sight. Not whatever you think is best. The exact thing. The vulnerable thing. The thing that could have been specifically withheld. And Jesus healed him. Not because the specific ask earned the answer. Because the specific ask is what the relationship required. And the relationship still requires it. From you. The specific thing. The real one. The one you stopped bringing. So here's what I want to say to you directly. The decision to stop asking for specific things. That decision made sense. You were protecting something real. The faith you had left. The ability to keep showing up. The capacity to stay in a relationship without being broken by another unanswered prayer. That's not weakness. That's someone doing what they had to do to survive a season. But the season where the safe prayer was necessary may be over. And what you're carrying now, the question of whether what you did was wisdom or surrender, that question is itself a sign. Because someone who had fully surrendered the specific asks wouldn't still be wondering. The fact that you're wondering means part of you knows that the safe prayer is protection, not faith. That the relationship has gone shallower than it was designed to go. That somewhere underneath the thy will be done is a specific thing you've been afraid to name. And the God who asked Bartimaeus what he wanted, he's asking you, not to put you in a position to be disappointed again. Because the asking is the intimacy. Because the naming of the specific thing is the most trusting act there is. Because a faith that only prays safe prayers is a faith that stopped trusting at the place where trust actually costs something. You don't have to bring the big thing first. Start smaller. One specific ask. One real thing. Said out loud. In your own words, without the wrapping of early surrender. And see what it opens. Before you go, type these words in the comments. I am ready to ask again. Not because the fear of disappointment is gone, but because the relationship is worth the risk. It always was. And the God who stopped the crowd to ask one blind man what he wanted, he stopped for you too. He's listening for the specific thing, the real one, whenever you're ready to bring it.